Hey guys, welcome back to Gold Key Geezer, episode number 6. No, it's been a while again, but I'm back. And I got a question. Now, this episode is going to be like a revisit from the old channel. I think I better turn that music down a little bit, huh? Okay. Just some air checks from WABC in 1975. But anyway, who was the first female live-action superhero to have her own television program? No, it wasn't Lindsay Wagner as Jamie Summers on The Bionic Woman. It wasn't Linda Carter as Diana Prince or Wonder Woman. No, it was the lovely Joanna Cameron, who portrayed Andrea Thomas and her alter ego, the superhero Isis. Appeared on CBS 1975-76 Saturday mornings as part of the Shazam Isis Hour. It would do that for 2 seasons, and then there were 22 episodes produced. You know, 22 episodes is like the magic number for a show to be placed in syndication. So anyway, it was on for 2 seasons, 75, you know, the fall of 75 and the fall of 76. And then in 1977, it was brought back as a replacement show for a canceled Saturday morning show, and that's when the title was changed to The Secrets of Isis. This character would also appear on in a cartoon form maybe a year later, 77, part of the Freedom Force. I don't recall. I mean, I kind of remember that cartoon, but didn't really watch it. The amulet that Isis wore, and the character sort of appeared on Smallville. In one episode, Lois Lane was possessed by Isis. And the only other appearance I'm aware of, as of right now, is on that DC TV show on the CW, Legends of Tomorrow. There was a character. They did not use the word ISIS because of the political connotations nowadays, but the character did have the amulet and commanded the elements like ISIS did on the original TV show. Which leads me now to this movie coming out, the Black Adam, Dwayne Johnson movie. There was a version of ISIS. You know, Filmation always owned the character, the original ISIS character, Andrea Thomas. DC licensed that to produce a comic, and in the early 2000s or mid-2000s, 2005, 2006, there was a, what do they call a maxi series called 52, where DC brought back a retooled, reimagined ISIS character that they called Adriana Tomaz, sort of a nod to the original Andrea Thomas. And that character was a love interest for Black Adam, and hence the appearance of that character in the upcoming movie, which of course the speculators bumped up the comic values. If you look on the auction sites, it's a little bit inflated, because of this upcoming movie and the first appearance. But the actual first appearance of ISIS was in Shazam number 25 in 1975. And as you can see, this comic carries a DC TV comic imprint. I believe Shazam, the ISIS comic that would follow the following month, and Welcome Back, Kotter, I believe, were the only 3 comics that carried that imprint. Maybe there was another, and if there was, please let me know. But here's issue number 1. As you can see, they introduced supervillains in this comic, whereas, in the TV show, if there was a villain, they were just generally bad guys. Most of the time it was just troubled adolescents or teens. They were morality tales. I always hoped that, a DC superhero would show up, like maybe Green Lantern or, the Batman or something. But the only superhero that showed up on ISIS besides ISIS herself were the crossovers with Captain Marvel or Shazam. And they both did cross over 3 times on each other's show. So there's number 1. And this villain is called the Scarab. So the villains in the ISIS comic tended to have a Egyptian theme. Here's number 2. Black cover, mostly. Black background, anyway. Number 3. As you can see in this one, the villain is the Set. Beware the Wrath of Set. I really like that cover. Pretty cool. Denny O'Neil was doing the editing on this series. So, as you'll see when I put these on the table, there was a lot of intelligent writing, in my opinion. And, compared to the television show, which, like I said, were just morality tales geared at the kids who were watching TV at that time, the kids my age. I would have been 11, 12 when this show was on. But anyway, they really were trying to develop this character, give it a background, give it, some conflicting some conflicting feelings. All right, so there's number 4. Here's number 5. Cover in outer space. A new beginning for ISIS if she can survive. Little did we know she would only survive for 3 more issues. Number 6. The ominous ooze. This villain wasn't a Egyptian themed one. Now here, this guy, there's an Egyptian character. I've been waiting, ISIS, waiting 1,000 years to watch you die. And we get a tagline here, the unforgettable origin of ISIS. So we're getting her origin story in her next to last issue. Although I'm sure the writers didn't know that was coming down the line, because it took almost 2 years for this series to be completed. Here's the final issue, number 8. I don't know if it was part of the implosion or if it was just poor sales, that it didn't catch on. I loved it. I collected this. Well, not collected it. I bought this. This is not. These are from my childhood. I didn't collect these later on. Even when I wasn't really buying comics, when I saw this, I continued to buy it, and I managed to get all 8. I got the complete run of the original ISIS, and that includes Shazam number 25. I'm going to put these on the table, take a quick look at each issue. We'll see if we can figure out what happened, and I'll do that when I get back, so I hope you stick around.
See stars shine on CBS Saturday. See Pebbles, Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner, Scooby-Doo, Shazam and ISIS, Space Nuts, Ghostbusters, Valley of the Dinosaurs, Bad Albert, the Children's Film Festival.
Okay, we're back. Hope you enjoyed that little CBS Saturday morning promo from 75. If you're wondering why I titled the video the way I did, well, I was 11 years old in 1975, and that's my first crush. No doubt. I probably wouldn't have called it that then, but definitely, yeah. Excuse me. Okay. Shazam number 25 has a cover date of October 1976, I believe. Yes, 1976. So the show was in its second season. The Shazam ISIS Hour was in its second season when the comic was introduced. And we see on the cover here, we see ISIS in her television costume. Shazam or Captain Marvel. It's Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel getting ready to grab this I-beam that's falling, and Shazam stops it. And in typical Captain Marvel speak, he says, "Holy moly, the beam, she stopped it in midair." So I'm not going to do a panel by panel retelling of all these issues. just going to talk about this first one a little bit and then what happened from there. So the title of this introductory story is ISIS, as in crisis. She's here, ISIS, television's favorite heroine. And in this story, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing, I had mentioned that characters from the TV show do appear or will appear in her comic. Well, they're in this issue of Shazam as well. We get Rick Mason, who's a fellow school teacher and a sort of kind of love interest for Andrea, and Cindy Lee, who, like I mentioned earlier, I'm not sure what her job was. Was she a student? Was she a student teacher? Was she a teacher's aide? I don't know. But there's a non-superhero villain in this story. At one point, we get a little bit of a retelling of Andrea's origin, how she became ISIS, with discovering the amulet and the scroll. Very similar to the opening to the live-action TV show, which, if you remember, if you were a subscriber to the old channel, for the little segue clip, I used the opening in the old video that when I covered these comics, I used the opening from the ISIS TV show, and it took a copyright claim. So I didn't use that this time. Not that I really care about being monetized, but I just don't want the white tea gods, watching me any closer than they need to. So yeah, this is just kind of like a, hey, how about that? Rolling Stones Black and Blue album ad with a strawberry blonde Mick Jagger. I don't know. Not one of their greatest albums, in my opinion. I do believe it's the first Rolling Stones album with Ron Wood as a member. Pretty sure. So yeah, we get this story where these regular bad guy villains capture Cindy Lee, and ISIS saves her. Oh, and here we go. I answered my own question. The DC TV series, DC TV Comics. I said it was Shazam, ISIS, and Welcome Back Kotter. Well, I forgot about Super Friends. So there were 4 titles in this DC TV comic imprint. So anyway, yeah, of course, ISIS saves the day, by summoning the elements, and in the final panel of the story down here, she says, "See you soon in the first issue of my own magazine, on sale the 3rd week in July." So she breaks the 4th wall there. And we also do get a Captain Marvel story. I don't know if this is a reprint or not. Hard to say, because I don't see Uncle Dudley. And the reason I say that is, we got Savannah here. But the reason I say that is because once the television show, the live-action show on Saturday morning took off, they took the Uncle Dudley character and put him in a safari jacket and tried to make him look like Les Tremaine's mentor, from the live-action TV show, and stuck Billy and Uncle Dudley in an open road motorhome, and they traveled around the country for the last part of the Shazam comic run, because I don't know how many issues after this it actually lasted. Maybe another year? I'm really not sure. Okay, but enough about him, because we're here to talk about ISIS. So, in the first issue, now in her own magazine, TV's top heroine battles her deadliest foe. And it's her first foe, and it's, as I mentioned in the opening, it's a Egyptian-themed supervillain called the Scarab. And we get a script by Denny O'Neil, art by Rick Estrada and Wally Wood. How about that? Now, Denny O'Neil would eventually take over the editing on this title. I believe this was edited by Julie Schwartz, although I'm not 100% sure. So, she meets up with a Egyptian-themed villain in this opening issue. And in the coming issues, as Denny O'Neil became the editor and was, I guess, influencing the scripts that were being written, he really started to develop the character, especially from issue 5 on. So for the last 4 issues, the second half of the run, they started really trying to develop the character of Andrea Thomas / Isis, giving her conflicting feelings about her powers. At one point, she runs away. Rick Mason goes looking for her, and just as things are coming back together, we get issue 8, and in the, like in the first page of issue 8, the final issue, we see her carrying Rick Mason, although it's not really Rick Mason, but we won't get into the story. And she, in a thought bubble, says here, "At last I know that I really am the original Isis of Egypt. Now that that's settled, I can resume my other life as Andrea Thomas once more." Now, see, Rick Mason had gone looking for her because she did kind of run off to try to figure out who she was and what she was supposed to do with all these powers. And we see he goes to visit Andrea's mother. And when he does finally find her, we see them being reunited, Andrea and her mother. And this story introduces this mutant character, which it appeared to me like it was going to become like a story arc, but it just didn't happen, So we get to the end of this issue, and this mutant kind of goes off on his own, or gets away, I guess you'd say, although she knows who he is. And down here in this final one-page panel, we get, I hope you can see this, we get this closing statement that says, "So as Isis must bid farewell to the mysterious mutant, so must we say goodbye to Isis as we sadly bring her comic book adventures to a close. You can still see the adventures of Isis every Saturday morning on your local CBS station." And that was it. And in the final letter column for Isis, which was called Isis Scribes, Denny O'Neil opens things up with this statement: "It is with regret that we announce that this will be the last issue of Isis. The reason is, as usual, the sales of the book. They just didn't merit keeping the book on the stands. Isis had a strong core of loyal followers. I was one of them. But there just wasn't enough of you. It seems doubly a shame, because according to the mail that had been pouring in, we were just hitting our stride. Foregoing our usual answers to each letter, we dedicate the rest of this column to the enthusiastic response we garnered on our 5th issue, the issue that began the new direction for Isis." Like I mentioned, halfway through the run, they really started to develop this character, but sadly, that was it, And you know what? One other thing I didn't mention. I said that, Joanna Cameron, or Isis, Andrea Thomas, was my first crush. I didn't mention in the opening that, she's up there on the pop culture collage that's always behind me when I have the openings for my videos. Excuse me, we'll have to take a closer look at that one of these days. So anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. If you stuck around this long, I'd like to thank you for your patience. And if you're not a subscriber, I'd ask you to please consider doing so and liking this video. I know I'm not around all that often. I just got a lot of things going on in my life, but I will put up videos when I can, and you might see me in the chat rooms or on Four Color Fossils if I get invited again, but I'll definitely pop into the chat room when I can. And one last thing. I'm recording this on Wednesday, the 19th. I don't know if it'll be up by tonight or tomorrow or Friday. I'm not sure, but I believe the Black Adam movie, the reason these comics were getting inflated, because of the quote-unquote first appearance, even though it's a totally different character. But I digress. Anyway, that movie apparently opens tomorrow. And not that I'm really interested in it, but I have seen some headlines that I guess the early reviews are in, and it's another dud. But you know what? These comic book movies, They don't do anything for me, be it Marvel, DC, or whatever. They just don't. My heroes are in the 70s. That's when I was reading comic books. That's what I care about. And these characters, the few of these movies that I've seen, they are nothing like the characters that I knew. But you know what? I digress. Many people like those movies, and that's great. They just don't appeal to me. Okay, enough of that. I'm off the soapbox. Once again, I'd like to thank you if you stuck around this long. And please consider subscribing, liking the video. If you have any comments, please leave them below. I enjoy getting comments, and I try to respond to all of them. I believe I always do. But anyhow, that's going to do it for this episode. And until the next time, take care.